He found out on a Tuesday, not because of a fight, not because something felt wrong, but because she forgot to log out of her email. Imagine waking up thinking it's just another day. You brush your teeth, you drink your coffee, and then, by sheer accident, you open an email not meant for you. A message that doesn't belong in your life. And suddenly, everything changes. Her words weren't even apologetic. They were casual, familiar, the kind of messages two people exchange when they think no one is watching. But someone was. Him, her husband. And in that instant, his entire world collapsed. He didn't scream. He didn't even cry at first. His heart simply paused, as if the truth needed a few extra seconds to sink in. It wasn't just about another man. It was about everything they'd built together. The dinners, the late-night talks, the whispered promises, their wedding vows, lies. He sat on the couch in silence, holding his breath. That feeling? Like you're free falling but never hitting the ground? That was him, lost in his own living room. She came home hours later, smiling, humming, carrying groceries like it was just another Tuesday. And when she saw his face, something in her froze. She knew he didn't need to say anything. She saw it in his eyes. The disbelief, the heartbreak, the betrayal. And then came the questions. Not the ones he asked her, but the ones screaming inside his own mind. How long? Why? Was it something I did? Something I didn't? And the most painful one of all, did she ever really love me? She said it didn't mean anything, that it was just a mistake. But mistakes don't stretch across 6 months of secrecy. Mistakes don't write, "I miss you" at 2 a.m. Mistakes don't destroy a person's faith and love. He left that night, took nothing but his wallet and his keys, drove for hours without knowing where he was going. He just needed to move, to escape the weight crushing his chest. And somewhere between mile 57 and 82, something shifted. Not much. Just a thought, a whisper. What if this isn't the end? What if this is the beginning? You see, sometimes destruction is necessary. Forests burn so new trees can grow. Stars explode to birth galaxies. And hearts shatter so we can finally hear what they've been trying to say all along. He checked into a motel. Cheap, dimly lit, with stains on the carpet and a TV that didn't work. But for the first time in hours, he was alone with his thoughts. No masks, no pretending, just pain and possibility. He didn't drink that night, didn't numb it. He wrote just a few lines in a crumpled notebook he found in the glove compartment, about how it hurt, about how it felt, about how nothing made sense anymore. And somehow, those words made the pain bearable. Like bleeding onto the page was the only way to survive. The next morning, he called his brother. They hadn't spoken in years. A stupid fight about money, or maybe pride. But now, none of that mattered. His voice cracked as he said hello. His brother listened. No judgments, no advice, just silence on the other end. Sometimes, that's all you need. To know someone still hears you when you've gone quiet. And so, he stayed. One more day. Then 2. Then a week. He started running again. Not because he wanted to be fit, but because it gave his thoughts somewhere to go. He ate better. He slept. He wrote more. Letters to himself. Letters he never planned to send. Then came the moment that changed everything. At a tiny cafe, in a town he didn't even know the name of, he overheard a conversation. A woman, maybe 60, talking to the barista. She said, "Sometimes the worst thing that ever happens to you ends up saving your life." He froze. She wasn't talking to him. She didn't even know he existed. But her words hit like a thunderclap. Maybe this wasn't just heartbreak. Maybe it was rescue disguised as ruin. And with that one sentence, a new idea was born. Not revenge, not rebound, not regret. Reinvention. He didn't go back to her. Not because he hated her, but because he finally loved himself enough to walk away. He started writing online. Little stories, thoughts, pieces of his healing. People began to read, then respond. Some with their own stories, some just saying thank you. And slowly, something beautiful began to grow from all that pain. He wasn't alone anymore. He joined a local support group. Not the kind where everyone cries into tissues, but the kind where people laugh again. where they talk about pain without letting it define them, where healing isn't about forgetting, it's about transforming. He started mentoring younger men, guys going through the same thing, and in helping them, he helped himself. And maybe that's the twist in the story no one expects, that the worst day of your life can become the foundation for your best one. That betrayal can lead to rebirth, that being broken doesn't mean you're beaten. Pain doesn't vanish. It evolves. Some mornings he still woke up expecting to see her beside him. The mind clings to routine even when the heart knows better. But with each sunrise, the weight got a little lighter. He didn't tell many people the full story. Not because he was ashamed, but because he realized something. Your healing doesn't require anyone else's understanding. Closure isn't something you wait for. It's something you give yourself. One day, months later, he received a message. It was from her. A long apology. Pages of, "I didn't realize what I had. I was lost, and I miss you." He stared at the screen for a while, not out of anger, not out of temptation, but because something unexpected happened. He felt nothing. No hate, no heat, just peace. He didn't reply, not because he was trying to punish her, but because he had already left that version of himself behind. That man, the one who begged for answers, who ached to be chosen, no longer existed. He had become someone new. Someone forged by fire, but not consumed by it. He had dreams now, ones that didn't revolve around someone else's love. He took a course in trauma recovery, then another in coaching, not to start a career, but to understand his own journey better, to turn pain into knowledge. And people started to listen. He was invited to speak at a small event, then a podcast, then an online summit. Every time he told his story, he watched the same thing happen: silence, followed by connection, tears in someone's eyes, a knowing nod, a stranger saying, "That's exactly how I felt. Thank you." He wasn't famous. He wasn't rich, but he was whole, and being whole, that's everything. One cold evening, walking home from a meeting, he stopped to watch a father and daughter build a snowman. They laughed, their hands red and numb, their faces glowing. And for the first time in a long time, he smiled, not because he had something, but because he'd stopped needing what was never real. You see, when someone betrays you, they don't just break your heart, they shatter your mirror. You forget who you are. You question your worth. But when you survive that, you don't just heal, you evolve. He stopped chasing closure. Stopped scrolling through memories like crime scenes. He stopped asking, "Why me?" and started asking, "What now?" Because the future doesn't care about the story you tell yourself. It only responds to the one you choose to write next. And so, he kept writing, not just for himself, but for the version of him that once sat on that motel bed, drowning in silence, believing it was all over. It wasn't over. It had just begun. He remembered the silence more than the shouting. The silence after she left. The silence that filled the house like fog, clinging to every wall, every photo frame, every piece of furniture that still remembered her. That silence was the hardest to live with, because it said everything she didn't. He didn't know how to exist without someone else in the space. Every morning, he reached out on instinct to her side of the bed, only to find cold sheets. He'd sit in the kitchen with 2 mugs of coffee, habit, muscle memory, heartbreak. At work, he laughed at jokes and answered emails, but his eyes always looked like they were focused on something miles away. Friends invited him out, but he declined more than he accepted. The world went on as it does, unbothered by one more heart splitting open. But there was one thing he kept doing: walking. Long, meandering walks at night, when the city dimmed just enough to hide a man unraveling inside his coat. He didn't know where he was going. He just walked until his thoughts quieted or his feet ached. On one of those walks, it started raining. Not a soft drizzle, a sudden downpour. He ducked under a bridge and stood there, soaked, breathing hard, with his hoodie clinging to his back like grief. He looked up, and through the veil of water, saw his reflection in a shop window across the street. He didn't recognize that it wasn't just sadness, it was shame. Shame for not seeing the signs. Shame for giving everything and still being left. Shame for wondering if he deserved it. He clenched his fists, not in anger, but to feel something solid. And then, Without meaning to, he started laughing. A low, bitter laugh that turned into tears he didn't bother hiding. Because there, under that bridge, in the middle of a storm, he realized something. He had nothing left to prove. Not to her. Not to anyone. He was alive. Broken, but alive. And that meant he had a choice. To stay here, in this grief, in this weight, in this half-life. Or to move. To change. To rebuild. Not for her. Not to be chosen again. But for himself. So he started small. He cleaned the apartment. Took down the wedding photo. Not out of hate, but out of release. He boxed up her books, her scarves, her favorite mug. He donated them. Not because they meant nothing, but because they meant too much. He cut his hair. Not to be someone new, but to see someone different.